Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan Little for PokerCoaching.com, here today with another hand from the Super $1 Million tournament that took place on GG recently. This was from the GG Spring Festival, event number 41. It was a $25,000 buy-in tournament this week instead of a $10,000 buy-in tournament because, well, it's a spring festival, you might as well gamble it up. One thing I want to mention before we get started today, because it's going to play a big part in this hand, is the payout structure that GGPoker implements. What they do is they, to some extent, highly incentivize you to make the final table, perhaps because they realize once you get to the final table, there's a lot of luck involved. And, you know, you can play great and still take ninth place and go home with no money. What I want to show you is the payout structure here on GG, okay? Notice, first place is about $1 million. Ninth place is about 110,000, okay? What I wanted to show you is the payout structure from the time, well, one of the times, haha, sick brag, that I won a World Poker Tour tournament. You see it right here. Here's a trophy I won from Mirage. Can you see it? It's see-through, it's glass, it's crystal, it's fancy. I got $1 million for this thing. But take a look at the payout structure. Ninth place is $46,000. Could you imagine beating however many people it took to get to the final table in a $10,000 tournament? This was $10,000. I realize GG is 25. Whatever, the structure is comparable, or it should be comparable. Ninth place was $46,000, which is basically a slap on the rump. Whereas first place is $1 million, $1.066295 million. It's about a, what, 20-ish to 1 spread, 22 to 1 spread, something like that. Take a look at GG though. It's about a 10 to 1 spread. So, what's going to happen on GG at the final tables, at least of this tournament, maybe it applies on other tournaments, is that you are highly, highly, highly incentivized to not go broke, especially when you are one of the big stacks. Okay? Let's keep that in mind as we move forward. Players today, we are going to be highlighting Niklas Astedt. I don't know if I said that right. I probably didn't. He is maybe the best online poker player in the world in tournaments. Super crusher. Super duper crusher. This is the 11th time he's final tabled this GG Super $1 Million tournament. It's his 20th cash. Goodness gracious. So he's played a bunch. However, you know what? His winnings are only $1.9 million, so only 190 buy-ins or so, give or take. So, you know, solid winner. One thing I want to point out about him is that his GG in the money rate is actually 13.8%. Remember, they pay 15% of the field on GG. I've been harping on this for a long time, but essentially, a lot of the biggest winners in the game don't really cash all that often. If, break even is 15%, you'll find a lot of the biggest winners are somewhere between like 13% and 18%. A lot of people think the goal is to get in the money. No. The goal is to make very deep runs, and Niklas is the absolute master of that. As we see, most Super Millions final tables and in the monies, absolute crusher. He gets it done. His opponent in this hand, also an online crusher. Not so much on GG, only $1.1 million on the site. Slightly higher in the money percentage, but $31 million in live tournament earnings. Basically infinite. This is Koon. Koon is an absolute crusher, and you never want him at your table. So, now that we've set up this spot, making sure we're paying attention to the payout implications, let's take a look at this interesting hand. So, before we get started, I know that we have these tiny stats over here. I don't know if you all can see them. Let me know in the comment section below. Right below if you can see these stats, please. In this hand, to start, Niklas, right here, has 61 big blinds. Koon, right here, has 61 big blinds. Okay? Everybody else is shallower stacked. Oh, look, Zhao Vieira. Hello, Zhao. I love Zhao so much. He might be my favorite poker player in the world. All right. So, these two players are very, very deep stacked. Also note, no incredibly shallow stacks, but a lot of stacks, 16 to 20-ish big blinds, okay? So lots of shallow stacks hanging around. Let's take a look at this very interesting spot from the final table playing seven-handed. Players are currently guaranteed. Let's take a look at what they're guaranteed. They're guaranteed $194,000. Notice only a $60,000 payout jump right now. So actually not all that big. 2 point something buy-ins. Remember, it's a 25K. All right, Niklas has Jack 9 of spades, certainly a good hand. I will say, right off the bat, this is a spot where Niklas should probably be a little bit tighter than normal because he has the big stack, well, equally big stack, Jason Koon on his direct left. I realize Niklas is actually the chip leader with 61.3 big blinds. Jason Koon has 61.2. This is actually a pretty bad spot for Niklas because he is going to be out of position against Jason more often than not. So if anything, he should be on the tighter side. However, Jack 9 of spades is a fine hand, so I would certainly raise it up. He does raise it up. Jason Koon with ace king. Right off the bat, what does Jason Koon do with the ace king? Well, obviously, default play is to put in the re-raise, right? Ace king, great. Pile your money in. Be happy. But oh, no. Oh, no. Remember the payout structure here. You really don't want to go broke. And if Jason Koon just plays kind of cautiously, then that's going to result in him more often than not laddering up. I actually just had an interview with Phil Hellmuth on my YouTube channel. Make sure you check it out, youtube.com/pokercoaching, where he says that one of the things he thinks he does way better than everybody else is just not going broke. And Jason Koon, world-class live player, world-class online player. And I think this is a spot where if there ever is a situation to not re-raise ace-king, like this is it. So Jason Koon gives it a little bit of thought. If he does re-raise, I would certainly not fault him. If he gets shoved on, it's probably actually a fold, as nitty as that sounds. But Jason does elect to call. Everybody else is probably going to fold because their hands are terrible. Big blind can't really call here. This is a spot where 6-5 offsuit, out of position, you just want to fold. And now, do we have a setup of setups? We have 2 pair against a 2 overcard hand with a gut shot straight draw, with a nut flush draw. All the money's going to go in, right? No. This is a spot where I think Niklas should probably elect to check because if he bets here and gets raised, it's a miserable spot, right? Whereas if he checks, he can very easily check and then call a bet. Because if he does elect to check raise and all the money goes all in, he's going to be roughly flipping. Sure, he'll be a little bit ahead on average against a good flush draw. But like right here, if he knew he was going to get it in against ace of clubs king, he does not want that. Because he's roughly flipping, and you don't want to roughly flip in a spot where if you just play kind of cautiously, you're guaranteed a few payout jumps in this very flat structure. Over to Jason Koon. Once Niklas checks, I think it's viable to bet. This is a scenario where when you're in position, I think you can bet pretty frequently. If you think about the range Jason's going to call within the cutoff here, it's got to be mostly just good big cards, right? And some pairs. And the good big cards like Queen Jack, Queen 10, Ace Queen, King Queen, Ace King with the Ace of Clubs, all connect well enough with this board to the point that he should probably go for a small bet. That said, he should expect to get called a lot. So I think he's going to be in bluff mode a pretty good portion of the time. And you may ask, like I just said, not to run any sort of insane bluffs here, right? But realize that on the flop, if Jason bets and gets raised, he can easily call because he has loads of outs, right? If he bets the turn and gets raised, he's not going to be all in yet. He can reasonably call, try to spike, make the ace high flush. He's good to go. And on the river, if he does decide to bluff it, he knows he either has the best hand every time when he has a flush, or he does not when he does not have a flush. And his life's going to be very easy. So Niklas is in a very different spot where he doesn't know if he has the best hand or not. He could easily just be beat here right off the bat. And also, if he is ahead, like he is here, he's still very live to get outdrawn. So let's see what happens. Jason does go for a small bet. I think Niklas can just call. There is no other great option here because if he raises, he's going to get action from mostly either very good flush draws or better hands, right? Like flushes and sets and straights that obviously Jason could have. All right, Niklas turns the nuts. He's happy as can be. Well, I say it's the nuts. It's not actually the nuts. He loses to Queen Jack and pocket queens. He does go for a check. This is something a lot of people do incorrectly. They just lead out when they have what they think is almost certainly the best hand. And the problem with that is that now, if Jason has a flush draw, yeah, he's just going to call. If he has a flush, he's just going to call. And if he has nothing, if he does randomly have a hand like, I don't know, ace 10 of hearts, he's probably just going to fold. And you're not going to get any additional bluffs out of those hands. This is a spot where when Niklas checks to Jason. Jason should keep betting with his premium hands, probably good flushes and better. He should also keep betting with some good bluffs that can call if raised, like ace of clubs with a king, ace of clubs with a 10, etc. And he should also keep bluffing with some just total garbage that he knows he's done with. By betting in this strategy, your opponent will not know if you have a really good hand you're never folding that you're happy to get all the money in with, like queen jack, right? Or if you have a hand that is a pretty good draw, ace of clubs, blank, right? Or if you have just total garbage. And that puts your opponent in a nasty guessing game out of position. We discussed this thoroughly at pokercoaching.com. You can get a free trial membership at pokercoaching.com/free. Make sure you take advantage of that. So in this scenario, what does Jason do? I think both betting and checking are viable. I'd probably just check here on the jack, because if you think about Niklas's check calling range on the flop, it's going to be a lot of queens, which are not going to fold, jacks, which are not going to fold, and what else? Ace of clubs, which, he can't have. King of clubs. He could have ace with a king of clubs, maybe, I suppose. If he has any other king of clubs, it's going to be with a queen or a jack or a 10 or a 9, right? So he doesn't have many of those. And if he does, they're pairs anyway. So this is a spot where I don't think it makes sense for Jason to bet, but I could go for a bet, like whatever. I could see it going either way. I'm going to presume Jason's going to do whatever is right because Jason's a genius. All right, he does let it go check, and I think that's good. Now, river is this fun 8 of clubs. Straight flush as possible. In this scenario, if you were in Niklas's spot, what would you do with your jack 9 for a pretty good full house? What I want you to do is I want you to pause this video and write in the comment section below what you would do in this spot. Would you check, looking to check raise? Would you check, looking to check call? Assuming Jason makes a pretty big bet. Would you bet something like 300K, or would you bet something like 800K? Pause the video and write in the comment section below what you would do. All right, did you do it? I hope so. Going through this active learning process is going to go a very long way to helping you improve your poker skills. And at my training site, pokercoaching.com, we have over 1,100 interactive quizzes where I ask you how you would play every single betting round, and you get immediate feedback on your play so that you learn very quickly if you're making good plays or bad plays. And if you are making good plays, great, you're probably a good poker player. And if you're making bad plays, well, I'll explain why so that you can immediately improve your skills. So check that out at pokercoaching.com/free. In this spot, I think Niklas should check. Why should he check? Well, if you've gone through the tournament masterclass at pokercoaching.com, you know on the river, you want to make sure you have some extremely strong hands in your checking range. So what are extremely strong hands on this board? It's going to be 10 of clubs. It's going to be full houses, right? Certainly Niklas could have queen jack or pocket jacks or jack 9, or pocket, well, I guess I say it right. Queen jack, pocket jacks, pocket queens, or the 10 of clubs. But I think he also, jack 9 is certainly a very, very strong hand you're happy checking with. Usually when you check your absolute best hands, you are looking to check raise. Now look, while I am very good at final tables, we have won some tournaments, a bunch of trophies back here. I didn't buy those, they gave those to me. I am not the most well-versed in this very flat payout structure that GG has at this final table. Remember, the payout structure is really flat. I mean, take a look at this, right? First place in the tournament that I won over here was $1 million. Second was 500K, half of it. And third was 250K, half of that. So it literally goes double, double, double at the end. Over here, 1,000,000, 800, 600. Super flat, right? It cannot be any more of a flat structure. And that's going to result in really, 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 really minimizing the idea that you want to win as many chips as possible, and really, really, really maximizing the idea that I do not want to go broke. I do not want to go broke. I do not want to go broke. It should just be like resonating in your head when you're big stack against big stack at these types of final tables. So in this spot, I think either you should be betting pretty big, planning to call if you get raised, but if you bet big, like 800K and get raised, it's often going to be all in. And sometimes Jason Koon is going to show you the 10 of clubs. That's not good. Or you should check. And I think checking is probably the right play here, because when you check here, you know you're not folding first off, right? Like Jason's never going to jam 6x pot on the river, right? That'd be pretty ridiculous here. Maybe not, actually. If you ran this through a GTO solver, maybe it actually does have a 6x pot shove. I don't know. I'm not a supercomputer. So in this spot, I think this is a spot where Niklas has a pretty easy check. And then if Jason bets small, I think it's definitely viable to put in the raise, because when Jason goes small, he's going to have a lot of, well, mostly marginal made hands. Typically, the small betting range in the spot in position is going to be a few super nuts, like 10 of clubs, and then a large chunk of marginal made hands, probably ace high flushes here, and then a few sporadic bluffs, like ace king of hearts if he happens to have it. So against that range, you can't put in the check raise. The question, though, is does Jason even call a check raise on the river with the ace of clubs? I don't know. In terms of Jonathan Little's perception of Jason Koon, again, like I said, absolute world-class player. I think he is a little bit on the conservative side, which I actually think is good at final tables like this, right? And for that reason, I would actually think he would probably bet this and then fold it a large chunk of the time, unless he thinks Niklas is insane, which, again, maybe he is. Remember, this relatively low cash percentage, that often implies he loves to run bluffs. But I think it's a spot where if you do get check raise in Jason's spot, it's pretty nasty given you lose to all full houses, you lose to the 10 of clubs, and Niklas certainly is good enough to check some of those hands. So I think because Jason will bet a hand like the ace of clubs and fold to a shove or raise, I think it's actually a check call against a medium or big bet. And against a small bet, I mean, maybe you could put in the check raise, but even then I think it's close. When Niklas checks, I think Jason probably has to go for a value bet here. He can get called by any worse flush. Notice, though, there actually aren't a ton of worse flushes. But this is a spot where Niklas could certainly have like pocket sevens with a 7 of clubs, right? He could also have random ace with a king of clubs, which is going to call a small bet, I gotta presume. He can also perhaps get called by a jack that decides to find a bluff catch. So I think value betting here is very reasonable. He can get called by a 10 too if Niklas randomly has like queen 10 or something. So I think a small to medium value bet is good. Let's see what Jason does. Please go for a small bet. Call it 300K. 480K. Fine. I think this is reasonable. So now, what do we do with the Jack 9? Well, funny enough, I think if Jason goes for the small bet, like 300K, 250K, something like that, raising becomes very reasonable with the Jack 9. But when Jason makes a big bet on the river, I have to presume his range is going to be a little bit more polarized, meaning it's going to be either total garbage, which is always going to fold to a raise, or it's going to be some very strong hands, like the 10 of clubs or a full house. You may say, does Jason ever have full houses here? He could certainly have queen jack or pocket queens or pocket jacks, although, he blocked queen jack and pocket jacks, of course. But he could definitely have pocket queens, but way more importantly, he could definitely have the 10 of clubs. So because of that, I think when he goes this big size, the right play is to just call. This ensures Niklas never faces the check shove or the bet and then shove all in, which is nice. And, well, it makes sure you don't go broke, right? Because if you check raise the full house here, I gotta presume you call it off when you get jammed on. But do you really want to be getting in without the nuts on the super flat payout structure? I think the answer is no. So let's see what Niklas does. Does he rip it all in? Does Jason call off the all in? By the way, if Jason does get check shoved here, it's just a fold. It's annoying. It's very annoying, but it's a fold. When you bet small and get check raised, you have to be way more inclined to call, because the small bet kind of induces raises, because usually when you're betting small, you have a lot of marginal-ish hands, and some people will try to bluff you off of marginal hands. But when you bet big and get raised, you're announcing either I have nothing, which you don't need to bluff me, or I have a very, very good hand, in which case you'd be insane to raise me without the nuts, right? So if he does get raised here, this is a fold. Niklas says, not sure if, just calls, and wins the pot, and ensures he conserves his stack. Niklas actually went on to win this tournament. So on top of these stats here, he gets to add an extra $1 million on top. $9 million in cashes now. Holy moly. He's at a second, a sixth, a second, a first now. He walks away with $1 million and change. Amazing score. Good job. Good work. Continues to prove that he is quite possibly the absolute best tournament player in the world. That's going to be it for today. If you enjoyed this, make sure you check out pokercoaching.com. One of my coaches, DraftGanger, was the #1 player in the world just recently for the 4th time. So make sure you check out his content at pokercoaching.com. He's in there battling with the best, and he streams it live for the poker coaching members. So make sure you're in there taking advantage of getting to watch the best players in the world battle it out for you and answering your questions in real time. Good luck in your games. Have a great, great week. If you like this video, do me a quick favor. Click the like and subscribe button below. Also, there's a notification bell. Click it, ding, ding, ding. Good luck, and I'll talk to you next time.